Hey everybody, it's Tom Woods, December 14th, 2011. Just a few brief words about radio host Mark Levin, who's been on a tear against Ron Paul lately, whom he greatly despises. But that shouldn't come as a surprise. To think about the sort of politician Mark Levin supports. Senator Orrin Hatch is an example. Levin pushed very hard for his re-election, criticized people who were critical of Hatch. So you think, wow, Hatch must be some great guy. And then you look at his record, it's typical nothing, right? He supported Medicare Part D, he supported TARP, which was the great betrayal of the century. I mean, you should listen to David Stockman, Reagan's budget director, who said that TARP was the single greatest domestic policy atrocity since the 1930s, if not ever. And from Levin's point of view, yeah, well, I don't know, maybe it was a mistake, maybe it wasn't, but it certainly doesn't disqualify him from being reelected. So yeah, obviously if that's your politician that you're going to go to bat for, but Ron Paul is just going to blow your mind. I understand that. But supposedly it's his foreign policy that's got Levin all upset, and Levin and his friend Jeffrey Lord at the American Spectator have tried to claim that really Ron Paul is just some kind of leftist for being a non-interventionist in foreign policy. But being a non-interventionist in foreign policy is no more leftist than being a non-interventionist in domestic policy. It's the same philosophy. And in fact, Russell Kirk, who is a teensy-weensy bit more important of a thinker than Mark Levin, seeing that he was basically the intellectual founder of conservatism, held a foreign policy totally different from Levin's, and by the end of his life was praising libertarians. He said, libertarians basically have got the correct foreign policy. It's a healthy outgrowth of the foreign policy of Robert Taft. So in other words, all the things that Mark Levin teaches us to ignore or despise are precisely the things that Russell Kirk was urging us to emulate. So I think that speaks pretty well for Ron Paul, and I think it shows how confused Levin is. Now, I've had an exchange with Levin on the subject of presidential war powers. He said something on the radio, I responded on my blog, and then he responded on his Facebook page, and then I responded in an article, and it just went back and forth. But the difference between Levin and me is that I linked to what Levin wrote and said. He didn't. As this went on, and I was obviously crushing him, the links started disappearing. He would not link his readers to what I was saying. And so by the end of the thing, well, I've obviously crushed him. Suddenly he's changing the subject to, and by the way, the website that Woods wrote this article on, I don't like that website. I found an article on that website that was critical of Ronald Reagan. Said Ronald Reagan wasn't free market enough. How dare they say that? Yeah, okay, all right, fine. You know, let's just say, right, okay, you don't like websites I write for, you don't like me. All right, well, so we'll just say for the sake of argument, I'm the worst person who ever lived. Now we got that out of the way, can we get back to the debate? So in fact, he's refused to debate me publicly. As I said, he won't link to me, but I will link to him because I'm going to be the better man here, which is apparently not that difficult. Head over to tomwoods.com/Levin, and I'm going to show you all the links in our exchange, Levin's and mine, and you can decide for yourself who won and who conducted himself in a way befitting a scholar. Now, I collaborate a lot with Professor Kevin Gutzman, and now apparently Levin is calling us dumb and dumber. I mean, this is really, that's the level that Levin is reaching for, apparently. Now, you know, Kevin can defend himself, right? But he's an extremely smart guy. Like, I mean, his most recent book on James Madison's being nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. You want to look at my background, it's at tomwoods.com/about. I think that it speaks for itself, and I think if you disagree with us, that's one thing, but we're obviously not stupid or dumb, so like, why do that, right? Doesn't that just make you look kind of bad? Like, why would you do that? Why would you bring the debate down to such a low level? I don't know why you would. Now, I also am putting on my tomwoods.com/Levin page a series of videos and links pertaining to foreign policy, refuting the Mark Levin position. But when I was all done with Mark Levin, by the end, he was changing the subject faster than you could believe. He was back to name-calling. It was just anything other than sticking to the subject, because he was finally faced with somebody who knew his stuff and whom Levin couldn't hang up on. And Levin wound up going home screaming and crying. And that's all you need to know about Mark Levin.